Hey, Chris.
Well, hey, Jason.
How you doing, man?
Good, brother. How are you?
Doing good. Welcome to the Leading and Serving podcast.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you back for the 23rd time.
23. I tell you what, these numbers keep ticking up, and I'm getting more excited about it just because there's so many neat people.
It's nice that you and I are still having fun doing this.
Totally. Who would have ever thought?
There is a stat. It's we talked about this early on about pod fade.
Yes.
Right. That like most podcasts never make it past episode 7 or something like that. And I see why.
Yeah.
I mean,
it takes some work.
It takes effort. It's not just flip a switch and talk and be done, and and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun.
But if we could figure out how to do that, that would cut our time in half, wouldn't it?
No, we could. That's right. So, but man, happy Easter.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Monday after Easter that we're recording.
Like it snowed this morning.
I know.
I was like, it's Easter and then it snows? What?
I know, and it's kind of a late Easter.
Yes.
And I know snow at this time of year, even for the Midwest and Indiana, it's not abnormal.
No.
But it's wrong.
It totally is. I'm so done with winter. I'm ready to go.
But I have to admit, I walked downstairs this morning, the snow was still falling. The car was covered, the grass sort of, nothing really stuck too deeply. But man, there is just a sense of peace and beauty. I enjoy that. I do like that, I have to admit.
I think I lost the peace and beauty as soon as I had to put my shoes on and take the dog downstairs to go to the bathroom.
Well, yeah. I didn't have to take a dog out, so
I was like,
that's probably fair.
I'm done.
Man.
Anyway.
Do you what'd you guys do this weekend for Easter, Joel?
We got together with some family and hung out. It was a gorgeous day yesterday to look at. But as soon as I was outside, I was cold.
I know.
And then to have the snow this morning, I was like, okay, apparently. And then it's supposed to get up to like the 80s this week. And I was like, gotta love Indiana weather.
Yeah.
Gotta love Indiana weather. But yes, it was great to spend time with some family over the weekend and spend some time on reflection.
Yeah.
Which is always good to think about some things. And
I agree. We had a birthday recently in the family, so we had a late birthday celebration. We got to go
over the weekend.
Yeah, we went out and hit balls at Top Golf.
Oh yeah, I haven't been there yet.
And we all got done, and everybody's back was sore.
Oh,
but we had a blast. We had fun.
That's awesome.
And all the kids were in. We had 4 of our kids are apparently still in the egg hunting stage.
Oh,
the youngest is 15.
There you go.
And we have 2 adult kids. And we're asking, do you want us to stop this tradition?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what kind of candy would you put in? and we did up the game since we've got some teenagers and a couple adult kids. We did slip a few dollars in a.
Oh man, I'm coming to your house. Don't stop. I'm coming next year.
But we were like, we're gonna hide these extra hard because
right.
You're not little kids now.
Right.
And we ended up having to give them hints on all of them.
Are you serious?
Just like, oh my goodness.
Awesome.
So, it was fun. With, not that that's the center of Easter for our family.
Right.
Not the true meaning, but it's great memory making family time.
Is.
We had a blast with that. So.
Yes. That's awesome.
But, well, maybe the snow will be gone soon.
Right. Hey, I just learned something new today. I'm going to be at your house next year for the Easter egg hunt.
Oh, this might have been last year. Sorry. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
So what are we talking about today, Jason?
Well, last week we started talking about the mindset of a leader.
Okay.
Of a leader is, when we're talking about leading and serving, when we're talking about becoming a leader that other people want to follow, not just have to follow. This is a leader who is intentionally out to fight for the highest good in others. And so how do we do that? Mm-hmm. We talked about 5 different things last week, and we want to talk specifically about one of those, which is how do we bring effective support and challenge to those we lead? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What does support look like to you? When you think of a leader who supported you well to get where you are at today, what does support look like to you?
For me, I think it's somebody who is willing to answer my questions even at the most random times possible, because nothing happens in timely manner. but I also think it's somebody that's helping me. I am one of those ones that likes to process through things. I like to talk through them and process them. So I need somebody who's willing to listen to what I have to say and then push back on me.
Okay.
That's a great support system for me.
Okay. So I'm hearing accessibility.
Yep.
Willing to give time, willing to share wisdom, and willing to push back, willing to give you space.
Right.
You know, that's they're not in that moment for themselves.
Right.
They're in there to fight for your good and give you the space and the time and the wisdom that you need.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that they also give me this is what I would have done, Chris. Like that
Yeah.
kind of information.
Right.
Because I need that too, because maybe I'm missing something.
Right.
So
Okay.
That's what I think of.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on that. Yeah. Anything that is giving us the framework that we need to succeed, whether that's time, resources, wisdom, that we're offering those things in support. That we think you got this. I believe in you, and you can make it there. So what about on the other side? What about challenge? What does that look like in a good leader that you've had in the past when they bring challenge to you to to push you further, push you harder? Because you mentioned it there in support, that I think is really a key part of that they're willing to push back, that's part of challenge. So
and it's funny because when I was younger, it was a struggle to be able to accept that pushback. But I think as you get older and you want to grow and become a good leader, like that's your goal. I think it's something necessary to have in order to truly be understanding of things outside of yourself, if that makes sense. So getting that pushback and trying to give that to others, I think it's, in my head, it's hard to take it from somebody I don't know has my best interest. So for somebody to just walk into my life and say, hey, you're screwing up, it's harder to take that for much more than a grain of salt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for somebody who's invested and walked with me over time and can speak into my life and have helped me with things in the past, even if they weren't huge, they can say, hey, and more than likely they're going to say it differently too.
Right.
They're not going to say, hey, by the way, you're an idiot, you forgot this. They're going to say, hey, you might need to consider doing it this way differently next time. Or you might need to consider going back and apologizing or reevaluating what you said.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like at those avenues, it's definitely there's a word choice difference for starters, and there's an ability to relate and converse about it too. It's not just you're an idiot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's all about both of those for me.
Absolutely. So if you think about a leader who only does the protecting side, that only, hey, you got this, you can do it. They're a cheerleader. They support you. They give you time. They give you space to process, but maybe they never hand off the wisdom. Maybe they never hand off, okay, so what's your action steps? What are you going to do? By when? Who are you accountable to? That's bringing the side of challenge.
Right.
That a leader who just creates that support, they're great at supporting, but they never bring challenge. That type of leader just kind of creates this culture of entitlement of, well, I'm going to succeed, right? So what do I need to do to really, that's never fully defined.
Right.
And so there's just a sense of entitlement. But then if you don't bring that challenge, that, you miss the metric, you miss the expectation that hasn't been fully communicated.
Right.
And then a leader is prone to an outburst. Prone to come down hard and go, but we missed this.
Right.
Oh my goodness. And then it's just this big blow up. And so the person who's following that kind of leader is kind of left confused, going,
what just happened?
Well, yeah, I thought I was doing good.
Right.
And so then on the opposite side of that, the leader who brings all the challenge, but never, like you said, feels like they're really in it for you. We're all working for a company. We're all working for the goals of the company, but do I matter in this process? Here's a deadline. Did you make it? Did you fail? Here's a goal. Did we make it? Did we fail? And if you fail, man,
Right.
like you said, that gets ugly.
Right.
And so that just kind of creates a culture of fear and manipulation of what do I have to do so that I don't get yelled at.
Yeah. Or I lose my job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, worst case scenario.
Right. And so, just what do I have to do to get by and to survive? And neither of those, support and challenge, if we are to bring effective levels of both as a leader, we don't do that naturally.
No, it is. You have to be very intentional.
Yes.
Completely agree.
And so, I think the more we know ourselves, the more we understand. I'm better at bringing the protecting the support side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much better at that side. Bringing challenge is difficult to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
How about you? Which
I
side
would
would
say
you?
I probably am similar. I think it's harder to bring challenge sometimes, and there's times that I didn't think I would have a problem with support, but I have a problem with support. There's days where I didn't think supporting somebody was going to be that difficult, because it's not just it's easy to say that you're going to support somebody, and it's another thing to actually do it.
Well, and if we can say this gracefully, some people require a little bit more effort.
Yeah.
In supporting.
Right. Well, and I guess let's add that to that, which is, I don't know that. Do you truly know what you need to do to support somebody? When you tell them that you're going to support them, do you really truly know what that's going to take?
Right.
And sometimes it takes a turn that you didn't think it was going to.
Well, and if we go back to our conversation around 5 voices, the way you support a pioneer is very different in how you would support a nurturer.
Right. And that is huge, because I'm still trying to learn who is what.
Right.
And then to try to go and support them in a healthy manner is a whole other bag of tricks that I don't know that I have.
And the type of support that you bring as a connector is going to be designed for a connector.
Right. I can do that well.
That's the language you speak well. Right. And so when you're trying to support a guardian and you're trying to bring it in a connector voice, there's a disconnect. And the guardian's probably sitting there going, what in the world is going on?
Right.
And she knows who she is.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, and my wife, God bless her.
That's right. But some of the voices are more prone to the challenge side of things. So pioneers and guardians tend to do pretty decent at bringing solid challenge, and the support side is a little bit harder.
Right.
That type of language is harder for them, and not impossible for any of these things.
Right.
But it just takes more intentionality, like we talked about, like you said. And so, the goal is that if we can bring effective support and effective challenge in ways that motivate people,
and matter to them.
Right. And if you have a broader team, it's going to look different for different team members.
Right.
And so as you're intentional and you're doing the things that as you know your team, you're leading them well, you're bringing effective support, effective challenge, that results in a liberating atmosphere, environment, that people feel empowered to do the job. They know what's expected of them. The challenge has been set forth. And they also have the appropriate support to be able to meet that challenge.
Correct.
And that creates an environment that, if I do miss the mark, if I don't meet that goal or that metric, or I do mess up, well, have you created an environment now that it is okay to fail forward?
Right.
Because if you're all challenged, that failure feels like you're moving backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a very protective environment, it's super high support, and you fail, there's confusion over why.
Right.
But in a liberating environment, an intentional leader who is fighting for the highest good of those around them creates this liberating environment where people feel safe to move forward, even if that's their failure.
Right.
And we all know that's where we want to be.
Right. And I think that most people would say that, that's an easier spot to deal with, because the communication and the situation are probably in a healthy spot so that you can have conversations.
Yes. So to wrap up, if you're a leader today, what do you bring best? Are you better at bringing support? Are you better at bringing challenge? Because I don't think there's anybody who are naturally born to do both really well.
I agree with that.
And so which one do you lean to? How do you best bring those things? And then what do your team, what do they need?
Right.
Do they need support? Do they need challenge? How can you best bring that to them today? And take incremental steps. Be intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good.
All right, man. So we're going to transition into what would typically be
An interview.
But we're going to change our rhythm a little bit, aren't we?
We are.
We are. We're going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to keep interviewing.
Correct.
So we're going to do an interview, every other episode, I think, at this point?
Yeah.
Is what we're going to shoot for. And this is a short-term change. We're going to see how we like it, how you guys like it.
Yeah, feel free to push back.
But in the meantime, what are we going to do today, Chris, as we think about entrepreneurship and leadership and things like that?
Well, let's break some of this stuff down. I think that it's you and I've talked. There's some great. Let's have some great conversations about how to get started.
Okay.
How to just grow from make an idea into actually something implementable.
Okay.
Something that's just, if it's on your heart to be a business owner, and it's not on everybody's, it's okay. But there's leaders in all different formats, and not saying business is the answer for everybody. But let's talk about how to take it to the next step. Let's talk about how to go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah, we kind of hit high level on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But this will be an opportunity to go a little bit deeper, take some deep dive. So.
That sounds good.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll be back in just a moment, I guess.
Sounds good.
All right.
Jason, today I'm looking forward to chatting with you because there's been some things on my mind, and I know that we've talked about it off air, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about it on the podcast. And one of those things is we've talked to a lot of business owners over this time span that we've started this podcast. And for those that are out there that are thinking about, I happened to be talking to some students this week and who were in a business class.
Right.
And got some questions from them in regards to business. And I was like, well, I guess what brought opened my eyes to was the fact that there's a lot of people that have maybe entertained the idea of opening a business or thought about opening a business, but don't know where to start.
Right.
And so there's a lot of variables out there for anybody that's interested in starting a business. I mean, I know personally, it took me years to figure out what I really wanted to do. I mean, there were several businesses that I've started. I've had a couple that I've tried, didn't work. I have even had one that I've started and sold. And so it's not, there's no perfect recipe, I guess, to be able to come up with, hey, we need you to do carpet installing and I need you to start that business tomorrow. And, there's no one person that fits that perfect match that, okay, they're going to be their job. You know what I mean?
Right.
From a business owner's perspective, I don't know that all business owners knew right away out of the gate that they were going to do this.
Exactly.
So let's go through let's have a conversation about the fact of what would it look like if you and I were to start over and start our businesses a little differently. Like, what process do you think would be beneficial for somebody to go through to think, you know what, this is what I want to do?
Right. Yeah, I would say I could definitely identify with that because, I'm currently building a business at very infant stages of, getting our first client recently, which is super, super exciting and nerve-wracking all in the same moment. But I felt this nudge for years, and thanks to COVID, I did not launch what I thought I was going to launch the spring of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very grateful because, it took a few months of reflecting on it, of going, oh, I would not have enjoyed this at all.
Oh, that's interesting.
I enjoy the work. I enjoy some of the things that I would do in that. But building a business around that, it is definitely an occasional hobby.
Which that brings up, an occasional hobby and a business are night and day difference.
Yes.
I mean, even from the tax code's perspective, right?
Right.
An occasional hobby is something fun you do on the side. Maybe you make a little money or something, and it's no big deal.
Exactly.
Right? There's standard expectations for tax wise, even that it's just something you do for fun.
Right.
But if you're doing it day in and day out, it's what I heard somebody tell me once. Well, why don't you turn your hobby into your job?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, then it's no longer my hobby. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
The fun thing that it used to be is not always going to be the fun thing that it is.
Exactly.
Because it might not be something that I can do 24/7.
Right.
I could a few hours a week. Maybe I enjoy doing that. But you take it to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I'm done.
Right.
I'm done after 8 hours.
Right.
So
and I've seen people whose hobby and their passion align so deeply, and they are so good at what they do.
Right.
There is a case where that does make sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm
Absolutely.
glad you brought that up.
Yeah. But I mean, I was thinking about, flying a drone and making a living off of that.
Right.
And I love doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started considering the other 12 aspects,
Right.
I was like, no, this would have driven me nuts very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad that didn't get off the ground.
Right.
Get
right.
it?
Well, and I know that in my past I've looked at several business models and when I was younger, I had an opportunity to jump in on a franchise, and I thought, man, in hindsight being 2020, like
Right.
the business was already set up and running while I was there. So all I had to do was really take the reins and be responsible for the financial side as well as the customer side. And I'd already been doing probably about 50% of the work. So it wasn't going to be a huge jump.
Mm-hmm.
But what I quickly realized at that point in life was that wasn't really what I wanted.
Right.
I enjoyed it. There was a lot of perks to it. I met a lot of neat people that also helped me probably on my entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
Excuse me. And so I think that it has been great to talk with those people. And I mean, that's why I love our podcast, because I get to talk to all these business owners who've gone through different things to get them to where they're at. Mm-hmm. So I think for me personally, I think people definitely need to look at their abilities and their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
But and we've talked about this, and I think this is probably par for what we've talked about in the past with
Absolutely.
some of the coaching that we've talked about with you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't recognize these things about yourself, it's hard to be an effective leader. It's not an easy job,
Right.
I don't think.
Right. Yeah, I think, I mean, getting back to that original question of how do I find out what I would be happy doing? Going back to the 5 voices, using, there's some other inventories out there. Strength Finders is another really good one.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really good stuff out there that helps you get a peek into who you are. That having that internal eye of, of introspection and looking, that's hard.
Yeah.
It is really hard. And, and asking others what do you see in me? What do you see me doing that I light up about?
Right.
That I don't, what do I not stop talking about?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And those are clues that lead us toward, what we would be really happy doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easy as well to maybe get ourselves in, I know I do this, I get in a state of analysis paralysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of, well, I just don't know if that's quite it.
Right.
So I'm not going to launch. I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
I don't know if that's quite it. So I'm
Right.
going to wait, and, it's not bad. Like you said, you built a business and you sold it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not bad to jump into something, find out, I can be successful in this.
Right.
And then hit this, you cross this line in the sand of going, I'm good at this, but this isn't what I want to do.
Right.
And it's okay to begin developing some type of exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's you just begin distancing yourself from the day-to-day operations and you stay involved at a minimal level, but you hire somebody to run it for you, or you're selling it.
Yeah.
You're getting out, and so you brought something to life in the world, and that's a fine thing to do.
Right.
And
one thing I touched on when I was talking to the teenagers, I think is key, is that I think analysis paralysis is a huge thing, because I think that people have hesitancy to try something and fail. And yes, at some level, there's more than likely it's going to have a cost factor, but is that money or time, or is it both? I think that those things, what people don't realize is that at some level, that's college for people. For some people,
right? That's
part of their learning curve. And I will tell you, I have made some financial decisions that directly impacted me greatly. Mm-hmm. But I also made that decision where I started that business, and then 6 months later sold it for a profit.
Right.
So no,
6 months.
Yeah, 6
Wow.
months. And it was
cool.
And I mean, it might have been the rarity, but I happened to be in the right position at the right time.
Right.
But it wasn't, honestly, I had started it from actually putting it together and selling it was probably longer than 6 months. But when we officially took off, it was 6 months. Let me clarify.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there was some pre-work to that work. But I mean, I guess I say that all to say is, I'm talking to these kids this week, and I was like, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. However, don't get stuck there in not easy. And mentors are a great tool, because back when I was first entertaining all these ideas, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't afford a mentor. I couldn't afford a coach at the time. So I had what I call a virtual coach, and Dan Miller, I'm going to give him a plug to him, because I listened to him nonstop.
Right.
And he was a great virtual mentor for me,
mm-hmm.
and I appreciate him still to this day. I still listen to him.
Right.
But if you can't, and then what I told I tell everybody else is that, there's other people out there that are more than willing to help you understand better what you want to do. So take people out to lunch mm-hmm. and help find out things that really intrigue you, and spend some time looking into that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, I've got a call scheduled this week with a guy who lives in a whole other city. Does the same thing I do, mm-hmm. and he's a year ahead mm-hmm. Down the road, and I just reached out and said, man, I'd love to hear, what were you doing in those early days?
Right.
Because I have a disconnect between 2 points.
Yeah.
I know what to do at point B, but I don't know how to get to point B.
Right.
And so I've got a call scheduled with him, and and I'm not like you said, I'm at a place where I don't have the income to get a regular coach,
right.
But we can schedule those lunches. We can schedule those calls.
Right.
And, find somebody who is just another step down the road from you and see what they're doing.
Right.
And
I told him, I was like, so, not everybody can afford college. I get it. I'm totally mm-hmm. good with that. But there's a good chance you can spend $20 and take somebody to Arby's. And totally. more than likely, I don't know about the coaches that you've bumped into, but I know the people that who are older and who I would consider my coaches at this point,
right, or
mentors. 9 times out of 10, they'll often buy me lunch, or I'll buy them lunch, or they'll offer to pay for their lunch as well, because they're great people, and they enjoy spending time giving me the knowledge that I'm asking them for knowledge, and they recognize that they're okay with sharing it with you. Because they want the best for you. Right. You know what I mean?
So, go ahead.
Sorry.
I've got a question regarding those types of people.
Yeah.
What are the characteristics you look for in a person like that when you say, hey, I think there's something that I could learn from them? Oh, apparently Siri is talking to one of us. Okay. Thank you. That's awesome. What are the characteristics that you look for in a person like that you think this would go well if I go take them to Arby's?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's actually, when I first was looking for somebody, it was a struggle. And I'll be honest with you, I think I struck out a lot at the beginning. But my current mentor now, who is in real estate as well, has been very successful. He has mentored other people in the past, but he was picky about who he aligned himself with.
Right.
And I appreciated that about him. And it's actually funny because I didn't meet him because of a real estate deal. I met him because I happened to be selling some tickets to something, and he emailed me back that said he was a property manager or property
Right.
something. And I said, hey, when I deliver this to you, can I buy you lunch? And it was, I think I got him his tickets. He didn't have time at that time. I think it took 2 years to actually sit down and chat with him. So I didn't give up on it, but I still sought out other people to try to get into him. But at this point, I will tell you, I talked to him like nonstop. Like, I probably talked to him, at least 5 times a week. It was like, and if something pops up, then I often call him. Well, now he calls me when he has a problem so that we can talk it out.
Nice.
So it's a relationship that is it's back and forth now.
Right.
It's not just me just trying to. And I mean, there was a time when he needed things for his business that I was able to help him with that I didn't charge him for. Mm-hmm. And my wife struggled with that for a long time. And it's okay. I felt like the knowledge that he had given me was worth so much to me that I was willing to do whatever I could do to help him out.
Right.
And it's just a different mindset and it just took some time and energy from me. Mm-hmm. It didn't take much financial. I had the skill set to fix what he needed.
Right.
So I was thankful that I could return the favor.
Yeah.
So, but I think that for the people sorry, I kind of digress. The people that you're looking for are the people who have been successful, who are proud of what they've done, but they're also they're personable and they want to share that with people. Mm-hmm. Because there's an old saying that, oh shoot, I'm going to screw it up. Anyways, that people like to understand, if you seek that knowledge from somebody, people like to give that knowledge because they're capable.
Yeah.
And that information comes because they're proud of what they've done. They've learned through that process, and they're willing to share that with you. And I think that's huge. Right. So those kind of people are out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if, in the current day, that some of those aren't somewhat reserved because maybe they have been taken advantage of by somebody trying to do the same thing, but then they took a shortcut and cut them off.
Right.
So
right.
cut off the mentor. So I know my mentor and good friend of mine. I have bought and sold. I have bought a house from him, and I'm probably going to buy a couple more. Mm-hmm. So now we've gotten to a position where we're comfortable enough that we can do some business together. Right. Which is a completely another level for me. Mm-hmm. Because it's not all about that. It was just early on, it was like, okay, I can't rub 2 nickels together, but I'm going to try to make this work. Right. So it's going to, and I knew it was a long-term process. Yeah. So I would say to those that are listening, if you're looking for a mentor, keep your eyes open because you never know. And take people to lunch. You'll quickly realize in the lunch meeting whether they're willing to spend the time with you. And for that $20, you'll learn a lot. Right. Even if you get one golden nugget. Yeah. I used to go to seminars too at one point, and there was so much information I didn't know how to absorb it or what to do with it. Yeah. It's like books. Like there's tons of them out there. And if you read one a month, you get a ton of information, but then what do you do with it? Right. So
what actually leads to that transformation?
Right. Yeah. And what have I walked away with? And so at this point in my life, I'm like, I just need one thing. Out of whatever it is I do, whether it's sitting down with a mentor, whether it's reading a book, whether it's listening to a podcast, there's something there. I just need that one thing I can cling on to and try to affect change.
That's funny because there's a conference coming up in a couple weeks that their theme is the one thing. Yes. But then they asked 10 people to speak on it in one day, so there's going to be actually 10 things
in one day.
In one day. So I want to loop back around to what we were saying. You mentioned things about risk. Mm-hmm. That when you reach out, you try and get something started. There's a financial risk. Mm-hmm. There's a time spent risk. What are some of the other risks that we?
There's also the risk of putting yourself out there. It's just because you're taking a risk with your finances, your time, your who you are and what you're trying to do. It's just there's a lot of risk there. Are you thinking of what I'm not?
No, I'm. Yeah, I think. I guess help me understand the who you are. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, so
stretch on that a
I
little
think
bit
that
more.
what I learned, and this is early on probably somewhat, is that if you can't accept who you are and if you're not trying to make yourself a little better, it's really hard to be a business owner. Because there's a lot of stuff that comes back around in the fact that you're responsible for things to happen. And when they don't, guess who gets the brunt of it? You are. And it's not even that anybody might have not done anything intentional to screw something up, but maybe it did happen. Because in my world, in the remodeling world, stuff happens. I mean,
Right.
we're constantly dealing with different variables. And does everything go to plan? No. But we try.
Yeah.
We try hard. And we try to take a lot of the variables away from the homeowner because a lot of people don't understand those variables. A lot of people don't understand that things break, things happen in the process of trying to do demolition, and even if it wasn't intentional.
Okay, so putting yourself out there, I'm hearing there's some reputation.
Yep.
You're risking your reputation. I know, if you take the remodeling, anything creative, anything that's around craftsmanship or things like that, you make intentional decisions about excellence and design and things like that. And you put yourself out there of, I think this is perfect. This is amazing. This is beautiful.
Right.
And then you have a client or a customer just go,
Nope.
What'd you do?
Right.
And so you're putting your heart out there in some ways as well.
Right.
So,
And it's hard when you've tried to. I think the reputation side of part of it is the fact it's really hard when you felt like you've put out 110%, and then it's not recognized. Not
Right.
that I might be able to see it as coworker because we've done our best, right? But if the customer doesn't like it, it's
Right.
not 110% to them. It's like 25%, and
Right.
your 110% looks like they're. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
And so balancing out that didn't go as well as we should have. Maybe there was a preparation problem. Maybe there was a conversation problem, and learning from that, and then starting over. And then I tell my customers all the time, like, just give me an opportunity to fix it, so that I can, because I want to know that when I walk away, it was done and done to the full best capacity possible.
Right. Do you think people are more prone to risk different things, like your capacity for risk in certain areas is different than my capacity for risk in other areas? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think it's spot on too.
Okay, and
Yeah, like I think
go for that.
No, yeah, it's like when when I was talking to those teenagers, those freshmen the other day, I was like, I know most likely, if any of them had jobs, they were probably working, I don't know, fast food somewhere. It's hard to be a high school student and have a job, right? So they didn't have a huge amount of income, more than likely. But they had time. So they could leverage their time to learn something new or to try something new. Because there's many things out there that don't cost a lot, but you can take off on. And, we always go back to the whole idea, like when I was younger, is shoveling driveways in the winter. And it was push mowing in the summer. It's like, I started that early on. And it took time. It didn't take a lot of money, but it took time.
Right.
And then you've got people who are out there like myself who I want to see kids out there trying new stuff, because I know that's going to take them to another level, that that process, that's what part of that process is, even though they don't see it.
Right.
So when you're early on, or even young family life, I mean, like when you and I started, like at our early ages, when we were having kids younger and we didn't have a ton of money, like we did have some time. So we invest some time into different things and try different things.
Right.
Now, at this point in our lives, we're in a little different position. We have maybe a little less time, but maybe a little bit more money, but not a lot of either one, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
so it's just, and so that capacity shifts.
Right.
Where you get to the point where you have less time and you have a little bit more money, you're willing to take on a little more financial risk
Right.
versus the time risk.
Right. So where we're at today, what we have in abundance, maybe we're a little more willing to risk that.
Right.
That we can, scoop a little bit off the top
And mind you,
and risk that. Yeah.
I'm not saying risk like the Hoosier lottery, like, hey, let's go out and buy a lottery ticket today and let's spend all our money
Right.
on a
Right.
lottery ticket. No, I'm talking about like literally spending some time learning about something and then investing into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's not like, and in my frame of mind, that's not always stocks. So for investment people, that's stocks in mutual funds and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But for me, it's me.
Right.
I'm going to use that money to invest into me because I want to learn through this process. I want to grow and I want to own this business.
Mhm.
So therefore, there's a time restraint now and a financial restraint
Right.
that I need to make sure that I'm part of.
Right. Because if you're going to get something off the ground, you've got to invest. Not, a lot of times we think of it in terms of finances, but
Right.
how many hours researching?
Oh yeah.
And then you decide, okay, now I'm going to go for it. How long do you spend running potential business names past people?
Right.
Now I need to develop a logo. If I can't pay to have it done, I got to figure out how to, you build a website, you do all this marketing stuff, then you got to get on, file the LLC, you got to
Right.
do the EIN. There's all these different steps you've got to take that aren't terribly expensive.
And there's so many people, Jason, out there that will take it to the road you just took it on. And then there's so many people like me that I'm just like, whatever, let's do this thing, right? And I'm just like, and I don't think that the funny part is I don't think either one is right. I think
Right,
there's like a
right.
middle road where you sometimes you just kind of got to figure it out as
Yeah.
you go. But there's some things, you need to hit pause, you need to take care of on the way
Right.
there. Because
Right.
if you don't, it'll come crashing
So I
down
wonder,
later.
if we keep, talking about maybe what we fear then,
Yeah.
and tie that into the risk aspect.
Right.
That, our upbringing, our story of origin, our journey in life, I think affects how we deal with these types of things.
I agree.
Your willingness to risk financially,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how much abundance you might have at the moment,
Right.
is deeply affected by, what happened, in your childhood,
Right.
in your raising with your parents, and things like that. Because I've always got more time. I've always got more energy. I've always got some room for thought. I can process something. I'm more willing to give that up
Right.
than I am finances.
Right.
And
And I mean, finances, we'll talk about that on another podcast, I'm sure, because that's a huge one, right? But I think that it's definitely, there is no risk without reward, right? So they kind of go hand in hand, and you have to grow the confidence in you to recognize where you're at and what you're willing to sacrifice in that process.
Right.
And sometimes it's a $20 lunch
right,
that's going to cost you $20 in an hour of your time.
right.
So
And I sacrificed a call to the IRS last week.
yeah.
I would have enjoyed the $20 lunch more,
Right.
than the
The
time
hour
on
that-
hold.
on hold.
And they do have the callback system, so that was nice.
That's
But
good.
It's
They're
still
catching up.
it still was a mess. But yeah, I mean, I think I think this brings us full circle to where we started, of knowing who you are,
Right.
knowing what are my drivers, what are my fears, what are my inhibitions,
Right.
what do I feel like I can't do, and why can't you?
Right.
You know.
Well, and I think that, one thing that I also want to touch on is, I think is huge, is we in of ourselves oftentimes talk ourselves into circles or into boxes.
Mm.
And those boxes oftentimes put us in a position where we think it's either A or B.
Yeah.
And I have heard multiple people say, why does it have to be A or B?
Hmm.
Why can't it be A, B, and C? And I'm
Right.
like, I don't know. I didn't thought about that. It's not applicable to the situation.
That's right.
Right? But then you start to sit back and think about it, and it's like it can be A, B, C, D, E, and F if you really want it to be. It's
Right.
just it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And it's
I think, and again, knowing who you are,
right.
that, see, I am the alphabet guy.
Yeah.
I sit down and I work myself in circles to the point where I see A through Z.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a hard time narrowing down to get in the box of, okay, maybe not A and B, but how about D and Q?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe those are the two options I need to pay more attention to.
Right.
But there's got to be another option, and so I will dream all these other options.
Right.
And you're saying you get into a box a little bit more
Yeah.
of here's A and B, and somebody's speaking into your life going, what about C, D, and beyond?
Right.
Right. Wow.
And that's huge, I think.
Yeah. So knowing yourself, knowing how you think, and then finding the resource. So for you, who are the mentors, who are the coaches, the people in your life who help you think of C, D, and E?
Right? That's
And
exactly.
for me, who are the coaches and mentors in my life who help me go, okay, but which two do you need to focus on?
Right.
And
Right.
so finding that resource, that sounding board, that process in your life to help narrow down is knowing yourself.
Right. And it's funny, it's those people that will help you grow greatly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And help you bring more concreteness to your thoughts so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
So always tease that stuff out with somebody else.
Exactly.
I mean, I love chatting with you.
Yeah.
And I know that I have several other people that I chat with that, that's what helps me get off the ground and get moving.
Right. So I think we are at a point where we should wrap up.
Okay.
And if you're listening, Chris and I have not talked about this, so I'm going to throw this out here.
Okay.
If it doesn't stick, I guess we can edit this out. Nobody will ever know. But leading and serving,
Mm-hmm.
that's the heart of this podcast.
Correct.
And we've talked about reaching out, and we just want to offer that invitation to you guys.
Right.
If you're sitting there going, I'm stuck in a box, or I'm stuck in the whole alphabet.
Right. Wherever you are.
We would be glad to chat with you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always worth a call. You don't have to spend $20 for lunch for us.
No.
I hear Chris likes Arby's.
Dude, I like anywhere we can eat.
But yeah, genuine invitation that if you're listening,
For sure.
and you're trying to find what your niche is, what your path is in starting a business or finding a new role, whatever that might be, we're glad to chat with you. And so we'll put some information in the show notes because clearly we have no plan on how to make that actionable since we're just talking about it. But we'll put some information in the show notes. So look for a link or some way to contact us there, and we'll let you know more here in a little bit.
Sounds good. Well,
All right.
Jason, thanks for hanging out with me today. I know today was a little different.
A little different.
But I love the idea of let's breaking down some of this stuff.
Let's go.
Because we talk to so many successful people that sometimes it's hard to remember what it's like to start.
Yeah, you fly over an interview and we hit some high level stuff, but we never
Right.
really get a chance to go deep. And
Right.
so there's an opportunity to go a little bit deeper. So, hey guys, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Yeah.
That word.
Great.
Subscribe. Shoot us a comment. Shoot us an email. We'd love to hear from you.
Sure.
And if you need a chance to talk and chat, we'd love to do that as well.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, guys.
we'll catch you later.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.